Good afternoon. My name's Hisham. I work in partner digital marketing at Cisco. Some of you may know me already, hopefully. Part of my role is looking for vendors that we can bring into Partner Marketing Central to offer up digital services to our reseller network. So I'm constantly on the lookout for kind of new and innovative digital tactics, and one of our newest additions is interactive video. So today I'm with Toby Pannell. He works for Talking Edge Studios and they're based in St Paul's in London. So he's given us 30 minutes of his time today to kindly talk us through the value of video as part of the digital marketing proposition, especially leading into the interactive packages that they've put together for us on PMC. So this is going to be a kind of informal chat. Toby's going to talk us through the company and the value proposition. But if there are any questions that you guys have, there's a chat function within the webinar feature, so you can drop questions in and we can pull them out as we go, and even a few at the end as well. So thanks for having me, sir.
It's great, it's a pleasure, thank you. So just to sort of introduce a little bit more about Talking Edge Studios and sort of who we are, just to put it in perspective. I myself had nearly 25 years in enterprise software sales, so I know a little bit about kind of challenges that you face selling technology in a sort of B2B world. Got involved in this business nearly 10 years ago, partly because my brother was involved in video production as a director working within broadcast at the BBC, and we thought it'd be a great idea to get together and join forces and utilise, leverage both of our skill sets. So we're actually filming this and broadcasting this live from our studio in central London, literally 200 metres from St Paul's Cathedral, for those of you that know London well. And I guess where we come from is, you know, we entered the market when video was kind of a luxury item, luxury product, if you like. Very expensive to produce, you know, infrastructure in terms of bandwidth. I think even 10 years ago, 3G, I can't remember exactly when 4G emerged, but it was very difficult, I think, for organizations to really leverage the power of video for various reasons. And I think, you know, what we've seen in probably the last 5 or 6 years is a rapid recognition of the fact that video now is becoming a must-have element of the marketing mix. In fact, I'd go as far as to say now that from a content marketing perspective, video is probably top of the list for most of our clients. And I mentioned on the previous slide that, you know, our clients are predominantly either technology organisations or law firms, which is like an interesting mix, right?
Quite a dichotomy in terms of your customer base. So I guess that would lead me into asking you how you would approach those two pretty diverse sets of clients. I mean, do you have a similar game plan in terms of producing content for law and tech, or do you find them totally different avenues?
Yeah, well, so, you know, sometimes we're dealing with senior partners of huge global law firms, and sometimes we're dealing with pre-sales engineers selling a piece of technology, and obviously their day-to-day challenges and how they communicate their message to their audience is very different. I think ultimately it's about telling a story and dissecting that message into sections. So typically a introduction, a middle section, and an end. And you know, if you take the legal sector, now we're sitting here in central London, in probably the hub of the global legal sector, legal world. A partner of a law firm might talk for 10 or 15 minutes about a really important financial piece of financial legislation that, you know, the CFOs of his clients really need to know about, and if they don't know about it, it could cost them millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. So they will watch that video, you know, they will spend time and invest time in watching a longer video of that nature. With technology buyers, I've got a slide here which kind of helps to position the fact of how technology buyers these days are using video every day to make decisions about what's happening in their industry within technology and understanding the latest trends and so on. But so they might, for example, watch a video that is informative and engaging about perhaps a case study or a peer of theirs in the industry, another CIO talking about a challenge they've had, perhaps involving security across their organisation or so on. So basically, it comes down to telling a story and making the video as engaging as possible for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So just to sort of give a little bit more of an introduction in terms of what we see as some of the fundamental challenges that perhaps some of your partners will face, or anyone that's creating video content. The number one thing that we've learned, and we have clients coming to us every day asking us our advice about creating content, and I always ask them, what do you want? What is it that you want the viewer to do as a result of watching a video? Understand the objective. What's the purpose of it? What's the call to action? What is it you want them to do? Whether it's to download a white paper, sign up for an event, book a demonstration, book a meeting, and so on. So that's the number one thing you need to know, right? The second thing is, and as a video production company, it's our job to make things look good, right? And there's plenty of examples on our website. If you go to our video gallery, by the way, you'll see plenty of examples of content we produce. But production value is not to be underestimated. There's lots of people out there who profess to be able to operate a camera and make something look good. And I'm sure many of you have production companies you've used in the past that are very good. And there's lots of great production companies out there, wherever they are in the world. But you also need to play your part in giving them a very clear brief on what it is you want them to capture and how you want them to approach it. So whether that's sitting down with them, working through the storyboard, going to the location where you're going to shoot, having a good look at what the options are, what kind of background are you looking for, maybe how many cameras, do you need a second or third camera angle to make it more engaging, the lighting and the sound of the location. So pre-production is a hugely important part of making a video stand out.
Regarding the brief, and you mentioned the importance of having clarity from your perspective in terms of delivering what the partner requires. Do you find yourself having to push back, fairly frequently because briefs aren't delivered in the manner that you see fit, that you require, so that you can give them the outcome they desire? They just perhaps are
absolutely.
looking for
I mean,
video.
I'm going after this broadcast. We're going to a meeting with a law firm. They haven't done any video before, very very small amount, and they want to do 8 videos of a partner talking to camera for 15 minutes with slides. Right? So the challenge is that we'll have to go down there and come up with some ideas in terms of how do we make that more interesting. And the brief is the partner wants it to be documentary style.
Sure.
Right? So we'll work with their team to understand, sort of the key messages and maybe we do some more kind of interview style with them, maybe get some nice cutaway shots. Maybe bring in some other materials to make it more interesting for their viewer. But that's kind of, you're right, that's a daily challenge for us.
So often the customer doesn't know what they want, they just don't know what they don't want once you give it to them.
So just coming to the sort of the next slide. So never pitch your product or service directly to camera. It might work for a Nike commercial, if it's a very direct message, or but typically people don't buy that way. They want something that's educational, informative. Take them on a journey. Take them to a place they hadn't imagined they're going to go to. Give them some information that is new and innovative. Get them thinking outside the box. Even some crazy ideas can work, but a sales pitch just it's not going to work, right? It turns me off after 10 seconds. I'm sure does the same for you.
To your point about the kind of Nike thing and the looking to the camera, do you ever find that where, for example, say a law firm are coming to you and saying, make this happen for us? They've perhaps sort of seen something that's caught their imagination on TV, and you've kind of got to talk them down and say, look, you're in the tech space, you're in the law space, then this is not the way that you should be coming across, and then sort of guiding how they think about what they need.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know, they all watch programs like Suits, right? And they think they're part of the show. So, a lot of it is managing their expectations.
Yeah.
And obviously, coming back to production value budget, I tend to ask what kind of budget they have early on in the process, because that makes a huge difference in terms of what we can bring to the table. What crew setup we have, how many cameras, how much time we have to capture content. But we, every production company, I guess, has their own sort of best practices, but we can film a pretty good case study, let's say. I mean, we did a whole series going around Europe, Barcelona and Denmark and places. And we can capture something typically in a day that's pretty good. And I would say that, I'm happy to give that advice as a sort of, if you want to bounce ideas off us, if you're working with a production company, just want an idea of, is this the right kind of price to pay? I'm more than happy to do that. Sort of, sort of no strings attached, as it were. And then sort of last but not least is, where do you place video? What do you do once you've created the video content? What do you do with it? Most web designers and whoever it is that's pulling together all the content for your website do a great job of making it look nice. But there's some fundamental things you need to remember about what you do with the video when you've got it. Number one is the thumbnail. So if I just come to this slide briefly, so a good and bad thumbnail can play a huge part in whether that video gets played. So you have however many impressions to your web page, but will they actually play the video? And obviously, if they're not playing the video, you're not getting any value from it. Typically, thumbnails that work well are ones of people showing some kind of emotional expression, or some kind of interesting. Something that invokes some kind of emotion. Something that
alludes to the narrative, something that sort of gives you an idea of the story behind the thumb, if you like. Some inanimate object.
And it is a real art form in picking the right image, I think. And some people just have an eye for that. And so play around with a few different, so that's really important. And I'll just come back to this slide again. So, and they've done analysis on this, that a thumbnail can make a difference, substantial difference, as much as sort of 35-40% in terms of play rate. The other thing is the player that you use. So I'll come onto it later, but we use a hosting platform called Wistia. Many of you may have come across that before. It allows you to customize the player, unlike, for example, with YouTube, you can customize it so the branding will fit with your branding. So if I come to this slide here, you can see that we've customized different colors and so on, and that matches the client's logo and brand guidelines and so on. And you can even change the way that the player bar looks at the bottom and so on. So that's another really important thing. And then, of course, where you place the video. So it always needs to be in a prominent position, ideally above the fold, so that it doesn't get missed. And obviously make sure it's mobile friendly, goes without saying. So I'm just going to skip forward here. Got any questions so far, Hisham? Or?
Not as yet, Toby.
Okay. So if we look at sort of traditional content marketing approaches, we're all familiar with writing case studies, and we put a lot of time and effort into that. We create maybe articles about the technology that we're bringing to our clients, and maybe how they're using it, and white papers and blogs and all sorts of content marketing that we create these days. And what we don't always know, and quite often what we don't know, is which piece of that content people are really engaging with. What's the specific message within that white paper that's really sort of stimulating the interest? Well, of course, with video, we can see the pattern of engagement. So we can see which parts of the video people rewind. So, for example, in this slide here, the orange shaded area, that tells us that people are rewinding that section and rewatching that section. So you'll see as you build up these metrics around the viewing behaviour of the audience, you can tell which parts of the message are interesting. And obviously presents lots of opportunities for us. So if somebody's really engaging with a certain part of the video, we know that subject matters of interest. We can build more content and focus more of our messaging around that subject. And if we talk about interactive, we can use that as an opportunity to branch, or maybe even a call to action to take them to the next step. Conversely, we see areas where people are dropping off or not engaging with, then we also know that we need to rework that part of the message. Or maybe we weren't clear enough about a certain point within that context of that video. So it gives us the opportunity going forward to review, gives us real data in terms of reviewing that content and then resetting our goals in terms of the next video we produce. We'll have a better idea, hopefully, of what the message needs to be and what the key, what the structure of the video is, and so on. If I come on to the next slide in terms of engagement, so when we talk about engagement, what does it actually mean? Well, there's a very clear way of defining it, and it's a percentage number, right? It's the percentage of video that gets viewed. So to break that down into sort of, you know, if you like a mathematical formula, it's not really complicated, but you know, the number of plays, so the number of views. So for it to count, the video needs to have been played for at least 1 second. But if we look at the amount of times it's been played, multiplied by the length of the video, and divide it into the actual total number of minutes that have been watched, we get a percentage, we get a fraction, we turn that into percentage. So that tells us the engagement value of that video asset. Yeah.
So using that formula, what kind of levels are you looking for to kind of gauge the success of a project, and are you getting requirements around that kind of engagement level in terms of the brief when it's delivered from specific customers, or are you having to sort of say, look, that's going to depend a lot on how you provide the content, etc. It's really out of your hands.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, because it's our job to try and make the video as engaging as possible. But there's parameters that obviously we can't control, such as budget. We don't always know who they're going to put in front of the camera, how engaging that speaker is going to be, or what the content is, what the narrative is, and so on. And obviously who they're targeting. You know, if they don't target the right people with the right message, then again, that's kind of out of control. What we can do is we can give them our best practice and advice around how to make that video look as great as it can be, help them with the script and the narrative, and give them advice on the timing of the video, the length of the video, based on the brief that they give us and the audience that they're targeting the video at. So we can do a lot of things to influence that, but I guess the long and the short of it is that measuring that behaviour, that viewing behaviour over time, once that video is out there, that's going to give us the real currency in terms of what that video is worth. What is it delivering? Yeah, that makes sense. So this is the benchmark. Engagement is the benchmark variable for how your video is performing. It's very easy to measure. You know, a platform like, for example, Wistia that we use, and many other platforms offer similar statistics. It will give you that at least that level of data. What I do like about the Wistia platform, I'll come on to later, is that the insight it gives you and the ability to see the hotspots and the heat maps of which parts of the video are really working is actually quite clever, I think.
And then you take that information and perhaps go back to the customer and say, look, we've heat mapped this, we've ascertained that part X or part Y is generating the most interest. Perhaps you should rethink the length or where the call to actions are, etc.
Well, the client will have direct access to that. If they're using Wistia, for example, they'll just log into their account and they can see the performance of the video. So it would be more a conversation with them about, okay, so this video's been out there now for 6 weeks. We've had X number of views. Is there something we can do now with that content to make it work better for us? Let's have another look at it. We spent a lot of money on the content. What can we do to improve it? So it's always a bit of a moving target, you know. And obviously it's not kind of a one size fits all. For each client might be slightly different depending upon who their target audience is and the purpose of the video in the first place. If I jump to this slide, you can see here, these are exported graphs from Wistia, but you know, typically we're looking for what we consider to be a good level of engagement is anything in a B2B context.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just clarify that for a minute. So difference between B2C and B2B, if you're a big advertising agency and you're spending millions on creating very high quality video content, you expect to have a high level of engagement. If it's a 15-20 second ad, if it's Nike, for example, or whatever. So, but for B2B, we know that our budgets work differently and the approach we take and our audience is very different. What we found is that if you can get your level of engagement above 50%, there's a great chance that that video will convert and lead to some kind of end goal, such as an interaction with your sales team, maybe a request for a meeting or whatever it happens to be. So if you can get up to sort of the 70s, 80%, that's extremely powerful. And there's not really any other kind of content that can achieve that level of engagement, and also be able to measure it at the same time and be able to make informed decisions about how to improve it. And that's the simple power of video. So if we come on to, for example,
just a quick one about that.
Sure.
Just based on the fact that you say 50% above, just based on your experience, I mean, at the briefing stage, is it possible, do you think, with your eye and your experience, to identify what potentially is going to hit those kind of levels and what's not? So even before you even get into the nuts and bolts of the production, you can sort of even have a quiet word in the ear of the customer and say, look, I don't think, just based on what you've given me in terms of subject matter, content to date, I think you're going to be struggling. You might want to perhaps have another think about how you approach this, or do you have to get your toe in the water?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the experience that we've had, having, I don't know how many thousands of videos we produce, but if you don't challenge the customer at the beginning of that process, you're opening up the risk of the project failing and them not being satisfied with the outcome. So I think, and we've walked away from one or two where the client is adamant they want to do something in a certain way, and we say, look, we don't believe that you can achieve the result you want with that kind of format. And we have walked away from a couple of projects like that. I can think of a really huge, big law firm. And we still work with them, but we didn't touch that project because it was, and with the budget they had, it wasn't going to be achievable. So yeah, you have to be pragmatic about feedback with the client. I think it's very important. So coming back to, I think, sort of the length of the video and how that plays into engagement.
So have you got a set kind of template in mind? But I know you said already it's pretty much a case-by-case basis. You're going to be working very specifically around the briefs and requirements of an individual customer partner. So presumably you're going to be working on a ad hoc kind of basis. You're not going to say, okay, this video, it would fit into the bucket of 5 minutes precisely or whatever. You're going to be looking at it from a...
Yeah, and I mean, so absolutely. I mean, we have, each project has to be tailored.
Yeah.
For the client and the objective, the goal of the video and so on. One of the questions that I get asked probably most frequently, or the reverse, and the client says we want to create a video of 15 minutes, like the meeting I'm going to in an hour or so. The video length is really important. I'll come onto this slide here, and you can Google this, right? The video cliff edge, right? It's what tends to happen is that when you press play, and I'm sure everybody has been through this kind of psychology, is when you press play on a video, whether it's a subject you're interested in, I don't know if you play golf or anything you're interested in, like me, you make a decision typically within 25 to 35 seconds in terms of, do you want to continue to invest time watching that piece of content? You may have been told to watch that piece of content by your boss. Maybe for that reason you're watching it, right? But you still might switch off halfway through the video. So generally what happens is once people pass that point, as I say, around about the 35-second mark, they tend to be more, their interest or their investment of their own time in that video increases. So they are more likely to stay watching longer. I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? But actually, once they get past a certain point, they will tend to watch a video that is longer if they've already made that conscious decision that they want to, or they're interested in it. So that's why you don't see this kind of massive drop off, even if once they get past that cliff edge, it's almost proportionate to the length of the video, the percentage of engagement. After about 2 minutes, they'll continue to watch it if they're interested at that point. I'm sure we've all sat there and watched at some point a 15 or 20 minute presentation because you're just really interested in that subject matter. Maybe a motivational speaker or someone that's really quite engaging, a Steve Jobs type figurehead, that you're learning from and you're engaged in the content. So it is important. I think what we need to understand is that for something like a technology video that might be a short case study or an explainer around a piece of technology, it's unlikely that a senior decision maker in the B2B world is going to spend more than 2 or 3 minutes of their time watching a video. What tends to work, what kind of content tends to work well, and I think I'll sort of touch on that later on, but is anything where you've got interaction. So a panel discussion is a great one, where you've got industry experts talking about challenges. So if you've got clients, end user clients using your technology, get them into an environment, wherever it is. If you're hosting an event and you've got people there, film it, capture the content. That kind of stuff is really digestible for people that are in that industry or focused on those kind of the same challenges as they are. There's again, it's a lot of it's down to your audience and what's the purpose of the video? What are you trying to do with it? And so, top of the funnel content is going to be very different to content that is there to drive them to a decision, for example, further down the funnel. So that's what I would say, and I would go to, at this point, probably go to the next slide, and try and at this point introduce the concept of allowing the viewer to interact with the content. So the term is interactive video. What does that actually mean, right? Really, in a nutshell, you're giving the viewer the opportunity to do something and make a decision whilst they're watching that content. In terms of the technology, it's web technology. It's a skin or an overlay, and we have our own front-end developers that will customize the video. We use a platform called HapYak. Again, you can Google that. HapYak provides the basic platform for building the video, building the interactive experiences, but we go way beyond that with our own developers to really customize the experience for our clients so that they can have hopefully a really cool interactive video that does its job and is optimized for their purposes. But the main purpose of interactive video is, as you probably picked up already, is to increase conversion. Yeah, what's the point of it otherwise, right? So hopefully encouraging the viewer to watch the video for a longer period and offer them choice points where they can do various things, and hopefully lead them to a call to action, whether that is download a white paper, book a meeting, sign up for an event, or whatever it is, and to keep them within the video, right? So, you know, we're all familiar with landing pages and sign up forms and so on, you know, all the techniques around that. But when you watch the video, why shouldn't you be able to sign up for something within the video while you're watching it? Yeah. So what we're going to do, now is we are going to show the audience out there. Hopefully you're still with us.
Proof is in the pudding.
We've got a short video we put together, which hopefully will give you some ideas in terms of the interactive elements that we can create for you. Enjoy.
Branching. Create a short intro sequence and then give the viewer choices about what they want to watch next. Chapters. Long videos can lose viewers, so why not break it down into bite-sized chapters, allowing the viewer to find what they're interested in. Vidicards. Make presenter information visible so the viewer can connect to them via LinkedIn or send an email direct from the video. Hotspots and links. Increase click-through rates by creating hotspots that direct the viewer to related content within the video or external content, such as an article on your website. Questions. Prompt your audience with in-video questions or quizzes, ideal for learning content or to gain useful viewer insights about their requirements and needs. Carousel. Highlight client feedback with an interactive carousel. Link these to a case study or testimonial. Search bar. Use a search bar within the video, helping the viewer to find relevant content on your website. Great for educational content. Mobile friendly. Interactive video can be optimized for mobile, so you can maximize conversion wherever people are watching your content. Web chat. Integrate web chat and allow your salespeople to connect real-time with viewers to boost conversion. Measure engagement. Measure viewer engagement through the video timeline to understand where viewers have dropped off or re-watched sections. Use this information to place interactive elements to increase engagement. Call to action. With interactive, you can include call to action forms, such as contact us or book a meeting. This increases conversion, as there's no need for the viewer to navigate away from the video. Captions. Many viewers have their sound off. Captions allow them to still understand your message and even search for key content.
Welcome back. I hope that you got a better idea of what we were talking about here today. So,
all very impressive. So I got to see that obviously a little bit earlier with you, and there's just so much to take in. There's so many options, so many different ways to make the content interactive. So is there kind of a sort of maximum number of interactions or types of interaction that you would recommend per project?
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, I'm always thinking about that, you know, and typically what we found is with clients is that they tend not to want too many. They tend to have a very clear idea as to what they want the viewer to do. For example, I did one the other day for a law firm where they were running an event around an insurance report that they produce every year, big global law firm. And their very simple goal is they want people to download the report, and they capture their data through doing that, through that process. But it does depend a lot on the video and what the purpose of the video is. If it's a technology video and the purpose of the video is to explain a piece of technology, Perhaps you might want to offer a case study, what we call a video branch, so a branch off to another piece of content that, again, is maybe a client talking about how they're using that technology. So you've got the explainer, which could be in various different formats, could even be a whiteboard style presentation, and then you serve up another video which offers the client the opportunity to go and see a case study about that piece of content, and then they're off to another piece of content, so they're still engaged, right? So you're extending that. Well, you're doing a couple of things. You're getting more value from the other asset, the case study that you spent money in producing, but also you got the opportunity to, in the next video, in the case study video, is offer them the opportunity to maybe come to an event where they can listen to a speaker talking about how they're using that technology. So, again, coming back to that sort of journey, we tend to work from the sort of back to front, if you like. So we work from what is the goal, and then work back from there in terms of how many interactions are needed. Some longer videos require more because they're just longer videos. So, for example, if you're running an event and you've got a half an hour, 45-minute event, and you're chapterizing it, what we would generally do is have a call to action at the end of each chapter. Because some people jump to the chapter that's of interest to them. So if you have the call to action in just one or two places, they might miss it. So there's sort of various different analysis, I guess, for want of a better word, that we do to try and figure out what the best approach is for any particular piece of content.
Can an end product get a little bit too messy, do you think, if someone wants too many sort of diverse types of interaction?
Yes, yeah. It's like a really busy web page.
Yeah,
if you've got too much going on and it's not clean and you can't get your point across in the sort of, the 4 or 5 key USPs that you're trying to demonstrate. If you can't do that on one or two web pages, then you're probably going to lose them, right? And it's the same with a video. If you overload it with interactive, it's too much choice for them. So kind of common sense, really. But if I come on to, so here's an example of where we use interactive to overcome this kind of cliff edge. So in this example here, we may have a hotspot. So when I say a hotspot, that could be a link, could be a video branch, or even a report, for example, or something that encourages the user to gain more information from in the process of watching that video. So I tend to like the idea of offering them another piece of content or a link to perhaps an article on your website which is very specific to that message. So if that subject matter is of interest to them, they're probably going to take the jump and go and review that other piece of content. Call to action is a funny one, and I'll come on to that in a second, and I'll come back to this slide, but it's a slightly counterintuitive when we talk about call to action, because most people, if you ask them, right, and if I ask you, where would you put a call to action in a video?
The logical place, without talking to you first, would be the end. That would be, if I was coming into this sort of blind, if you like, it's almost like you go a linear path and then you stick the objective at the end.
Mm-hmm. Which is how probably most people would view it, and certainly I did originally. But actually, analysis shows that it's kind of almost the opposite, that about halfway through the video is where you have the optimum chance of conversion with a call to action. And I think that is partly because interest peaks about 60% of the way into the video. It tends to drop off a little bit towards the end. So if you have your call to action at the end, you are going to lose this opportunity of some of these viewers that have sort of peaked. And again, coming back to reviewing the viewing behaviour, you'll be able to see that.
Right.
And you can move the call to action to a different part of the timeline and play around with it and see which works, see which one performs, see which timeline performs best.
Have you done some kind of A/B testing around that?
Yeah, we've done quite. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And these, I would always have one at the end, typically 30 seconds before the end. So say it's a 2 to 3 minute video, probably have it 25 to 30 seconds, but certainly have it early on in the video as well. You can leave it all the way through. It depends on how long the video is. If it's a long piece of content, such as a discussion like this or a panel discussion, you probably don't want to have it there all the time, but you can fade it in and fade it out, like for example at the end of each chapter if you chapterize the video. One of the interactive elements I really like is the ViDi card. I don't know if you probably saw that on the demo there. So that's something that we created ourselves by. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So if you're watching a video about I don't know, some new trend in IT technology, and you've got, I don't know, a CIO from one company and he's presenting some information, you can hover over the presenter and see specific information about them. You can connect with them via LinkedIn. You can bring up their profile. You can send them an email. So it brings the personality a little bit closer to you. And I think that's a great way for salespeople. We can obviously measure that and see who has clicked on those interactions, and for salespeople to see, actually, okay, so they were interested in contacting that person. That person happens to be one of my clients. Why don't I set up a call between John and Fred so they can talk about how they're using our technology? So there's, if you intelligent about it, I think you can use interactive in sort of interesting ways to improve conversion, and a very powerful tool for salespeople as well. Another one is the captions. I think you probably saw that, where if you've got a lot of content and the narrative is thousands and thousands of words, being able to search for a keyword and find that in the narrative and then play that section of the video. Again, it's an obvious one, but it's extremely powerful. I guess in conclusion, you always want to make sure that you have a clear goal for the video. Always include a call to action. I mean, that's fairly obvious, I guess, but not as you might think. Don't always leave it to the end. And make it prominent. Make sure it stands out. Brand it, obviously, in your own choice of design. Whether it's your logo, colours, design. We'll work with the assets you provide us with, but make it prominent.
So just in terms of your visibility to the partner network, Talking Edge's offering is in PMC right now, Partner Marketing Central. Any partner or distee that has their language preferences inclusive of English will be able to see Talking Edge. If there are specific requests to want to be able to use Talking Edge outside of English, if you sort of get in touch with me, and I can ensure that the Talking Edge proposition is made visible, in whatever language you see fit. And Toby's already told me that basically he can work, if suitable translations are provided for any of the artifacts that you want included in the video, Talking Edge can work in pretty much any language, in that there's no actual sort of requirement other than adding and the addition of the elements that you provide. So pan-EMEA for this offering if the need is there, so that's great. And then if you could just give us a couple of pointers about the workflow, I guess. So once a partner does commission you via PMC, which would be, as you all know, pretty standard, you guys would pick up the offering from its association with a specific campaign, and then you guys would be receiving the order email through, so you'd get the details about the partner you're working with and a brief outline, so you'd know roughly what the campaign interest was, and then it will be over to you guys to pick it up and sort of lead.
Yeah, exactly. We're a pretty friendly bunch. We'll jump on a phone call, whatever is easiest, a Zoom meeting. I quite like to use that and look at the video content and figure out which interactive elements seem most relevant for that piece of content based on what the client's trying to achieve with that. And then obviously we need the video file or an embed code from wherever they're hosting the video. And then we build the interactive elements. They would need to provide us with their sort of logos, assets, that kind of stuff. And then they review it, approve it, and then we send them the embed code. We can help them if they have any kind of issues embedding it on their website. Our team are quite used to jumping on phone calls with their digital guys and figuring out how to make that work. sometimes it requires a bit of tweaking with the embed code to make the sizing work on the page and so on. But yeah, we're there to help with that and make sure that and then beyond that, again, sort of reviewing it with them later on and trying to understand, you know, how it's performed and what we can do to improve it going forward.
Well, that's flown by. We've hit the 46 minute mark, it looks like. So I guess our time is nigh. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and hopefully it's been useful to you guys as well. If you registered via the email that was circulated, then my contact details are included in that. And yeah, drop me a note and we can get you hooked up with Talking Edge and Toby. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks Hisham.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody.